Hello everybody, my name is Ray, also known as Fancy Munchlax, and in this video I have a beginner Popular Rosie guide for you. So, Popular Rosie is a really fun deck, but it's also quite complex, so I thought it'd be nice to put a very, more entry-level guide out there, just so people can get a feel for the deck and how it works. I'm not going to claim to be the best Rosie player in the world, or anything like that. Not even close. But I did play the deck for quite a bit, and I learnt some cool tips I thought maybe sharing with you might help you. So, I'm going to start off with Leader Effect, and then the deck breakdown, and then some other tips that will help you improve with the deck. So Leader Effect has two effects. You're a 4 life, 5k leader, purple and yellow, and then once per turn, one of your Tragglers would be KO'd. You may instead add a life from your life area to your hand. So you don't get the trigger effect when this procs, and it works on battle KO and also effect KO. So something like an Elthor, if you wanted to, you could protect it. You could protect your lore by taking a life. And then you have a secondary effect, which is like more of the main effect of this deck, is activate main once per turn, -1 dot. And the next time you play a lore, when it costs 4 or more, its cost will be reduced by 2. Meaning, this 4 cost lore here is actually a 2 cost lore, and this 6 cost lore is actually a 4 cost lore. This allows you to play really big threats that are also blockers, ahead of what you would otherwise be able to, and allows you to create really big tempo gaps quite early, and then you can keep these, you could maintain the board control by using cards like Sakazuki and Borsa late game to help you survive. But that's a bit more. So we'll start with the lore cards that you're obviously playing with your leader effect. So the first one is this 4-6k blocker lore. So it's a 4-6 blocker with no counter, and on play, if you have equal to or less Don than your opponent on the field, you add 1 Don instead it's rested. So with your leader effect, when you minus Don, as long as your opponent isn't playing some weird purple deck that's also manipulating their Don, you're going to be on the same amount of Don, right? Say I'm on 3 Don, so my opponent has just had their 2 Don turn, and then my leader effect, I go back to 2 Don, then I play this lore for 2, and my lore lets me add the Don back. So it doesn't really cost you the Don minus, because you get it back, and it's also just a well-statted body, a really well-statted actually, a 4-6 blocker. So it's really good for early aggression, but late game can also be played just for leader for a cheap 2-cost 6k blocker. And the main card in this deck is this Rosie lore. So this is a 6-cost 8k. It's under the rules of the game, treated as a lore. It's also a 6-cost 8k blocker. On play, you add 1 Don as active and draw 1 card if you're equal to less Don, similar to this lore, except you add the Don as active, not rested, and you draw 1. This card is also Navy, which is important for your searches. But this card is really good because, again, you're playing it out a turn sooner than you otherwise would be. It's maintaining your hand size because it's drawing 1. And because it's an 8k blocker, this being a large blocker allows you to dictate the tempo of the game. When you want to wall up, you can just leave the 8k blockers up. When you need to be more aggressive, you just pretend they're not blockers and you just punch with them every turn. And because you get them out so quickly, and they're so strong, you can actually just apply a lot of pressure if you don't think staying healthy and walling up is the correct play. So these two are your core Rosie, the core cards for Rosie. These are the ones your main leader effect targets are going to be. But we also have 2 other laws in this, 3 other laws, kind of. So this is like the next most important law to be playing out. It's a 4/5/1, so has counter unlike the other Rosie laws, but it's a bit weaker. It's also a blocker still, so almost all your laws are blockers. And on play, you -1, and your opponent, if they have 7 or more in hand, they trash 2 cards on the hand. And this card simply existing provides a lot of value to the deck, because it really punishes your opponent for going to 7 cards in hand, because they always run the risk of, okay, if my opponent drops his Riplor, as we're going to call him, Riplor because he rips the card from your opponent, because they don't get to choose the card, it's random, they actually risk losing cards. So for example, if a purple and you're playing against, they're at 6 in hand, and you go 5k leader, normally they would just take it, but if they have to think, okay, if I take this hit, is this Riplor going to come out, and am I going to lose 2 cards anyway? And go down to 5 cards. But if they counter it, they go into 5 cards anyway, and then the lore has basically done its job without even having to be played. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation. That's why this card is so good. And again, since Pudding was gone, we haven't really had any hand control, hand removal type effects in the game. So just having this as an option that you can play for cheap with your leader effect is super, super good. And like for last lore that you see in pretty much every deck list is a 4-cost 2k lore. So this lore is mainly here to be a target of the I Love You, which is a counter event that's really strong for this deck. We'll talk about it in a second. But he's also searchable off this Resonante. And ignore the trigger, it doesn't have a trigger in this deck, but it's just a 4-cost 2k. You don't ever really play it out either. It's really just a 2k counter for this deck. That's searchable. And then the last lore that you might see in some deck lists is this female lore. So it's an 8 Okay, really quick, I forgot to add in the main video. I'll have a bunch of resources for Purple Yellow Rosie. If you want to, there'll be a free Discord server for a bunch of Rosie players. I'll put some of Madoka. I'll link Madoka's channel. He's a really good Purple Yellow Rosie player. I'll link Skepsis' guide if you want to view that. A bunch of things, resources for the deck. But also, really quickly, if you could subscribe, that would be really, really appreciated. Would go a long way for me. We're very appreciated. Thank you. Bye. So you also have this female law. This female law is an 86 one, so very poorly statted. But remember, you're playing it for 6 Don after your leader effect. It gets rush, so it's almost in a way you can view it as your opponent has to give you a card, right? So they're basically trashing a card when they have to counter out of the rush. And then activate main, you can choose to kill this, trash one card, heal one from the top of your deck, and also play a 7-cost or less lore from your hand, which notably, remember, you can play this lore, Rosie lore, because it's treated as a lore under the rules of the game. So this is like a heal one in tandem with the Rosie lore, and also pretty much ask your opponent for a card when you swing. So it's decent value. When it's good, it's like really good, but a lot of the time you don't need to be playing it, especially now you have other healing options like the Sporcer. But also it can be because it's a lore brought back on this I Love You. And then we'll go on to some of the other cards in the deck. So another main card staple you'll see 4 of in pretty much every deck list is the Sakazuki. It's a 7-cost 8k. On play, you -1 Don, and you give an opponent's character -6k until the end of their next turn. So even on their turn when they're swinging, they have the reduction, which is very, very strong, because it means even if you don't manage to kill the character that you minused, it's still effectively almost stunning it sometimes when they can't really swing with it, because it'll be so much smaller. But this Akazuki also has a really strong secondary effect, where every turn you can, once per turn, rest 1 Don, and if your leader is Navy type, which obviously we are, we add 2 Don for 1 Don deck as active. So we do need to have 2 Don in the Don deck, in our Don deck, that we don't have available to us right now to be able to use this effect. But that can easily be done with the stage and the leader effect always -2, and then we play this one and add 2 Don back. So this allows us to combo more easily. So we play this, for example, 8 Don, we can play this -1, and then use the effect, and we get back to 2 Don active, so we can play like another cheap law, or we can play like this lightning. So it just allows for a lot of flexibility, and even late game you can just use this to have an 11 Don turn if you ever need to, maybe if you're going for lethal, and things like that. But this Akatsuki really does help you control the board in a way this deck previously didn't really have. The closest thing it had in terms of power reduction was like Virgo, and I don't think that card is very great. So those are like the core cards of the deck. Apart from, obviously, there's also Borsalino. You probably know what Borsa does. It's a 4/6/1 blocker. On play, if you have 2 less life, heal 1. Notably, again, this is a Navy card, like Sakazuki, and this Rosie Law, so it's searchable, which most yellow decks can't search this card, but we can, which is really, really powerful. And so those are the cards, and then we have, from after that, we have some searches and some events that we'll go through. So for the searches, we have this 1-cost Kobe. This 1-cost Kobe is a 1/1. So this has counter and is a body, which is very relevant to decks like Blue, Green, Luffy, and Purple and Nell, where you don't want to use a real leader swing onto a small chump dude if you can avoid it. So having these searches out is really nice to contest their searches, or their dad's bones, or their Mr. whatever the fuck. To on play, you look at the top 5, you grab any Navy card other than Kobe. It does not search itself. And then you place the rest at the bottom of like any order. And because this deck has so many searches, it's actually important to kind of keep track of where these go in the bottom. But we'll have a section on that later in the video if you're interested in learning that. But really, it's just a standard searcher. It grabs your Rosie Law, it grabs your Sakazukis, it grabs this Rosinante, it grabs this I Love You, it grabs Borsa, it grabs the Navy card, the Navy stage as well, even this 2k. So this is just a really solid searcher for the deck. And then on the other hand, this is a different Navy searcher, but it's equally, if not more powerful in some senses. So on play, you look at the top 5, you grab any Navy card. So if you need to, this can just search itself. If you don't find an adequate target you want to add to your hand, you just say, oh, there's a search here, there's another stage, I can just add the stage to my hand as well. But you can't do that with the Kobe. The Kobe doesn't search Kobe, but stage searches stage. And also stage can find Kobe if you want. So this does kind of whiff less in that sense. I wouldn't worry about it too much, because remember, Kobe can search the stage, but Kobe can't Kobe can't search Kobe. But this stage is a secondary effect of every turn. You can -1 Don, rest the stage, and draw 1 trash. Draw 1 trash 1. This allows you to filter out a lot of your bricks, keep your deck moving, bringing you closer to the cards that you bomb deck at the start of the game, helping you find your Momoragans, all sorts. This is really powerful, and remember, the -1 can really come up with Sakazuki, where you can go leader effect -1, stage -1, and now because you have 2 Don in your Don deck, you can use rest 1, add 2. So really powerful with Sakazuki, just an excellent searcher to make sure you find your pieces when you need them. And then we have this Rosie searcher. So this is the worst searcher maybe out of the bunch, but because it has counter and is a body, so we play it at 4 instead of the Marineford stage. But this on play, you look at the top 5, you grab any lore card from your deck from the top 5 and add it to your hand. So this is a Navy card, so the Kobe and the stage can find it, which can help you find your focus lore. So normally you're going to be taking the Rosie lore or the focus lore, but there's also really can touch this promo lore, and this promo lore is really important to have at least one of them, just so you can make sure you get the +4 from your I Love You event. And I guess I've talked about it a few times, so I'll go over the I Love You. I Love You is a 1 cost, 2k counter always, but then if you have 2 less life, you can add any lore from your trash to your hand. So sometimes you're going to be adding like a female lore or a Rosie lore or a Rip lore if you really need them. But most of the time you should be adding this 2k lore to hand and immediately using it for a +4. But if your opponent is only swinging like 6k at your leader, you can just, if this lore is already in your trash, you just play the Love You, add the lore back and nothing changed. And you pretty much get out of the attack for free. So it's a very, very, very strong counter break for this deck. It's like Radical Beam on crack, if you want to think of it that way. It's also really searchable because, again, it's a Navy card. So yeah, very easy to get. And then we'll go through some of the events. So we have this Mamaragan. Again, this really synergizes very well with the Sakazuki because you give -6 and then you can use this effect, the main effect to Dom -2, draw 1, rest of 5k or less. So you can pretty much kill anything that is not a big 12k body, right? Because this in tandem with Saka, rest in 11k, and you can just use all your swing to punch it and it will die. And then remember, it also draws a card, so it keeps your hand full. Just a really, really insane card. It also has a counter effect. If you have 6 or less Don, it's +1k. That's always +1k, but then you have 6 or less Don, free draw card. So early game, sometimes I've used it just to like cycle if it's a matchup where the Morrigan is slightly less relevant, and I really need to find that Rosie lore and curve. So it definitely comes up. Super, super broken event. Probably 4 of in every purple deck ever, to be honest, for the rest of time. Super hard to just not play this card. And then also similarly good with the Sakazuki, we have the Gumgum Lightning. So Gumgum Lightning is a 2 cost, -2. Then you KO 6k less. So this card, just standalone, is like solid to kill like 6k blockers like Borsellino's. But when you pair it with the Sakazuki, the -6 from the Sakazuki, and then the KO 6k, you can hit 12k blocker like the Tenkos Nugate or the Tenkos Teach. And you just blow them up, and you laugh at them. Hahaha, your dude's dead. While you get your own big body, and you get rid of theirs. So it's really, again, a really big tempo swing, but because it's a bit easier just to be able to justify playing this just to pop a blocker, sometimes you'll be playing it over the Mamarakan. And then lastly for the events, we have this one slow. I really like slow as a 1 of in this deck because similarly to the focus lore, it's a threat your opponent has to respect. So what the card does is a 2 cost, counter -1 Don, you gain +2k, and then you rest any of your opponent's characters. So normally you should be resting the character that can swing for a larger number. So sometimes like a 12k blocker, like a 10k body. But in a situation where you know your opponent isn't going to be able to kill you, and you can kill your opponent next turn, you can even use this to rest one of your opponent's blockers prematurely, before even your turn starts, and they just don't get that blocker to play with. So it's really flexible, and it really like messes with your opponent's lethal. If you want to start like 7k, but then you go this and you rest that massive swing, and that lethal is cooked. So very, very powerful card. I really like it as a 1 in this deck. And lastly, we have this Divine Departure, because the deck does get a bit bricky. So it has a counter effect if you trash one other card from your hand, and you gain +3k. But also the main effect, if you have a given Don card, it's really important to remember you need to have a given Don card for this Divine Departure's effect to work. You give -8k to something. So again, similarly synergizes with the Lightning and the Mamarakan, pretty much can kill anything with these 2 cards paired together. So that's the deck list. Basically, normally you'll see like a few ratios changed on here, but I wanted to just talk about almost every card you might see in the deck. Some other cards you might see are like Wiper. Oh, it's yellow, of course. So this Wiper is a really strong card. On play, you flip the top card of life base, and then you give everything -2 and KO all zeros. I'm not going to talk about it too much here, but I think it's also a strong card. I just personally don't like it very much in this deck. But yeah, it's a very good card. So that's the deck profile. Again, so your key concepts of this deck is you're playing aggressive threats early, ahead of tempo, and then you use this 8k blocker to decide the tempo of the game while removing or minimizing opponent's board and threats with the Sakazuki. And you just use that, and then late game, Borsa, Cheese, bunch of counter events, and from there you can just win. The deck is super powerful right now. I think there is, like, this is the most 50-50 deck in the format right now. It doesn't feel like ever like a super horrible matchup you never want to see. So, yeah. I'll go with some other tips for the deck, so bottom decking, stacking, and things of that sort, if you want to stay around for that. If not, I have some resources if you want to continue to learn Rosi in the description. if that interested you, some really good players, Madoka, Skepas. So go check those out if you're interested in taking this deck to a higher level. This is more of a surface level breakdown of the deck. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the curve for the deck. So this deck, is less of a curve deck than you'd say like a mono-color, like yellow Luffy deck or whatever. There's less of a strict curve to this deck than others, but I think for new players, having a vague curve to follow is really nice, just to help them understand what they're meant to be doing on a turn-to-turn basis. So in case you don't know what curve is the your Dom progression throughout the game. So if I'm on the even curve, I've gone first, and my Don go 1, 3, I get 1 Don, then I get 2 Don, so I go 3 Don, 5 Don, 7 Don, 9 Don, etc. Not accounting for any Don minus things. And that's what your curve is, right? It just explains your Don progression throughout the game and what you want to be doing on each of those turns. So on our even curve, which is typically almost always the curve we want to be taking, we almost always want to go first with this deck. We go 1 Don, we do searching or whatever we have, and then on 3 Don, sorry, we're going to play a searcher or swing 6k with our leader. And then we can use our leader effect to minus a Don and play this full cost 6k lore. For 2 Don, add the Don back, and because we added that Don back from, even though we minus the Don, we can still go to 5 Don next turn, and we get to play this Rosi lore. And then this Rosi lore comes out on 5, because you 6k, minus the leader, Rosi lore, add a Don, go 7k with the other lore we just played or whatever. And now this blocker is in play, it immediately absorbs an attack from opponent next turn, and is going to keep providing us value throughout this game. And then after that, you'll be going on to 7 Don on your even curve. Then, so on 7 Don, you're typically going to be playing another Rosi instead of Saka, because if you play your Sakazuki on 7 Don, your opponent has just had their 6 Don turn, meaning it's very unlikely there's actually a target that you need to be giving that minus 6k. So you're better off most of the time just playing another Rosi drawing the card, keeping your tempo going, and punching your opponent a bit. And then after the 7 Don turn, so you go to 9 Don turn, that's where things get a bit more flexible, where you can play the Sakazuki, and then after the Sakazuki, you can choose to use Gun and Lightning or Mamoragan, or even play it. Or after the Sakazuki, as long as you're on 8 or more Don, you can go Leader Effect to -1. Then you use the Sakazuki effect, you rest 1 Don, you add 2 Don, now you have 2 Don as active. You can, because you've already used your Leader effect, you can play this law on the same turn as your Saka, where you develop a body. Or even you play this Rip Law and rip 2 cards from your opponent's hand. Super, super good combo. Because once you get the Sakazuki effect, pretty much all of your Don management issues go away. So you can just afford to minus as fuck ton. It really doesn't matter, because the Sakazuki will get you all those Don back and more eventually. So yeah, and then after the 9 on turn, it's really no strict curve. You just kind of want to be dropping Sakazuki's, Borsalinos, maybe a Borsalino and a Rosi lore on the same turn. And yeah, that's what you'll be doing after that. And then going second, it's all the same up until the 8 Don. Because you'll be on 8 Don instead of 7, so you can actually go Sakazuki into a full cost lore, basically a turn sooner if the situation calls for it. But also sometimes you can even go Sakazuki, play a lore with the Sakazuki, and still play the Moragan to rest something that you've just reduced. So that's like the vague early few turns of the curve, but after that it's too flexible to make a strict curve guide for. Okay, so in this section we're just going to go over some bottom tips to help you keep track of the bottom decking. So this is a bit more advanced, so maybe you want to play the deck a bit, get a feel for it, and then if you want to keep taking it to the next level, you come back to this bit. So, throughout the course of the game, you're going to play many searches, right? We're playing 11 searches-ish, which means that eventually, especially in longer games, you're going to be able to come back to the searches that you found, the cards you bottom decked in your first search. So it's important to remember what you put in your first 2 searches away, and also which order, so you know how you're going to draw back into it. So I'm going to go over that now. So in this hand, I have double searcher, so for demonstration purposes, we're going to keep it. I'm going to start off with this lore, because generally sequencing wise, but this focus lore is the card we're looking for, so that's why we start with this card, because it can search it. But now we have this decision. Our search is not done after we've decided the card we're taking. Now we have to think about what cards will I want to be drawing. So in this situation, none of these cards are actually that good. But of these cards, Sakazuki is probably the strongest one that we're most likely to want to draw back into. So we could order it in a way where we go Sakazuki, and then after we draw the Sakazuki, maybe Stage can draw us this lore, and then we play this lore on the turn we play Sakazuki. And after that, we put it in this order. This is a pretty bad example of what I wanted to show with all the healing stuff, but generally, if this was a bottom deck, this is how you place them. Just remembering that the Sakazuki is the 4th bottom card, And behind the Sakazuki is the lore. And after that, you just don't bother trying to keep track of it too much because you won't be able to remember everything, right? Generally, you can remember 1 to 2 cards, and after that, yes, too tricky. And Brooke does whatever, not really what we're here for. And now we can play the stage, and then this stage is a much better example. So here, we're actually going to take the stage because we want to find the Rosi lore, in my opinion. But also it allows me to show you. So say we play after the so we know in the bottom 4 we have Sakazuki, Focus Lore, a card I can't remember, and then Female Lore. So nothing too relevant after the Saka, but it does mean that if we place this Borsa off at the top, it will be basically the 5th bottom card in my deck. So it's pretty good to have generally Borsas at the top because by the time the game goes on this long, we want to either be playing a Borsa to help us live even longer, or putting a card at the top like a Lightning that's going to help us kill our opponent. But putting this Borsa at the top means that if we draw a Marine stage or a Kobe, our bottom 5 will be have a Sakazuki and a Borsa, meaning we can actually choose the card that we would want to add. And if we put them in this order, say once we have exactly those we know exactly those top 5 are, we could even choose this Borsa to add to hand, and then we know that the next card after this Borsa will be another Borsa. And generally, the card you want to put behind Borsa is a card you're going to be wanting to put into your life with Borsa, or a card you can instantly draw off your stage. So here we're going to put them in this order, where we want the Borsas as the top priority. And then here, we do draw another Borsalino. It's also important to keep track of when you're pitching Borsalinos, you want to remember how many you have left in the deck, and how far away you are from them. So even if you're not remembering every minute detail, things like Lightning, things like Slow Beam, things like Borsa, you want to keep trying to remember where they are. And now I'm going to go with this search because it can hopefully find this Rosi lore, and it does. And in this situation, none of these cards that we're not going to find these cards again, but it's important to know there are not going to be a Slow Beam coming, and also we're down 2 Moragans. That's all for this section. This is a pretty brief one, but I just wanted to bring to your attention that it is important sometimes to keep track of what you're bottom decking, especially when it's key cards like Borsalino, and also trying to keep track of like the exact cards in which order you place in the first couple of searches, because it's actually not too unlikely you see them again.